provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given, and said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News, Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 2018, as well as posting on the bulletin board in the city clerk's office. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Council members: Amati.
Here.
Good.
Present.
Hockaday.
Here.
Sorge.
Here.
Tolliver. Here. Vice President Mills Ransom.
Present.
Council President McCray.
Present.
All members present, we have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, are there any corresponding communications from the mayor?
His Honor the Mayor, Adrian Almat, will present a proclamation to the First Unitarian Society of Plainfield at the regular meeting on December 11, 2018.
The bills list and other financial documents have been sent to the council via email. We will now have a break in the meeting for a presentation from the Union County, from the County of Union. Will provide a brief presentation on the East Front Street intersection safety improvement project at Watchung Avenue, Roosevelt Avenue, Sanford Avenue, and Norwood Avenue, and Richmond Street. Council, can we please move to the front row? And council, if you will remain in the front row, there's a second presentation.
How you feeling?
Thank you very much. Good evening, council, members of the public. My name is Ray Sullivan. I am a project manager for Union County Division of Engineering. During the past several years, the county has had an opportunity to study corridors and infrastructure improvements throughout Union County. And there is...
Yeah, that's good.
Now I have an audience.
Yeah, that's the council.
We've had an opportunity to study
Excuse me, maybe
infrastructure.
just do this, stand right over this way.
Even better. That way, you
Sure.
can see.
And then you can see, everybody can see. Sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Taking it from the top. We have an exciting opportunity working with our partners at the North Jersey American Planning Authority
North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority.
to introduce a corridor improvement that we have presented along Front Street. And I'd like to introduce Christine Mittman, a project manager from the NJTPA. Thank you, Christine.
Good evening, everyone. So I work for North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. We are the metropolitan planning organization that provides the federal funds to our subregions. Union County is one of our subregions. There's 15 in our region. And I manage a program that called the Local Safety Program. It uses Highway Safety Improvement Program funds from Federal Highway, and it addresses safety improvements in crash-prone intersections and corridors. The county came to us with an application a number of years ago for this project, and we're currently advancing it through the design phase. We are providing the funding for design, construction, and construction inspection. This is the second of 3 projects that we're currently working on in the city of Plainfield. We just recently had Federal Highway authorize a 3-intersection project on West 7th Street that'll go to construction in...
Construction is scheduled for spring of 2019. It's approximately 200 days of progress, and we have already secured through the open bid, a contract engineer and a contractor, and we should be breaking ground probably March 1st.
And then with respect to this project, we're currently in the preliminary engineering phase, and we have a consultant, a Malikshire, that's working on the design right now. And part of the federal process is to have, to present to the public, and we're looking for feedback if anyone has any feedback on what we're proposing here. So I'm going to pass it over now to John, and he's the design engineer on the project, and thank you. Thank you for having us.
May I request that I stand back here? I can speak loudly.
Okay.
Is that
Take
okay?
the mic.
Yes. Oh, maybe you just...
First.
I'm tied together. It's difficult on me.
want to stand?
No, that's okay. So again, my name is John Hill. I'm the design engineer for this particular project, and I'm going to quickly go over what we're proposing to do for your city. Thank you. This makes it easier. So we're located, the project is located along the East Front Street corridor, and these are the different sites. So there's Watchung Ave, Roosevelt Ave, Sanford Ave, and Richmond Street. While they're talking about the existing, the purpose of this project is just basically to improve these different intersections due to the existing crash rates that we've analyzed along this corridor. So again, this is discussing the crash rates. I won't go into detail about this, but this justifies why we're making these different improvements at these different intersections. So basically at Sanford Ave, there's no traffic signal or any type of real control at that three-legged intersection. So we're going to improve that intersection, and this is right across from the senior center over there. But for the most part, at these different intersections, we're going to upgrade the traffic signal equipment, make sure all the signs, the signals are compliant with the current federal requirements, which is MUTCD, which is the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and to make sure everything is meets the federal ADA compliance requirements. And again, our goal is to upgrade everything to current standards, provide pedestrian devices, and I'll get into that a little bit more. This is specific to Sanford Ave. Upgrade the pavement markings where we need to, and again, make the ADA ramps ADA compliant. And again, make things federally guidelines. So we're also going to improve the lighting out there at these intersections where we deem it necessary that it doesn't meet the current standards. We're going to improve the drainage inlets at these particular intersections where they're not compliant to the current standards. And wherever necessary, we're going to try to improve, make some other amendments to the intersections. We will be following the guidelines put out by the city as best as we can. This includes the pedestrian lighting and the traffic signal, traffic intersection lighting. So at Watchung Ave, this is just an aerial view of the intersection, just to get you bearing of it. A couple of photos of the existing conditions that we're going to improve at. So this is what we're planning on doing. And I apologize it's so small, but we provide you, each member should have a handout. There's 11 by 17 handout that we gave everybody. So this is basically demonstrating what we're planning on doing. As you can see in this, currently there's a bus stop down here. We're proposing to adjusting it up into this quadrant. So this is Watchung Ave, this is East Front Street. So by changing out the bus stop from this location to this location, we will not be eliminating any parking stalls. We're basically adding parking stalls here, but removing them there. So there's a net zero difference of parking stalls. Where you're seeing the gray, the dark gray, because of the improvements we're doing, the striping and pavement markings, we're going to resurface the roadway in that area. You can see in the yellow, in these different corners, we looked at the different corners for ADA compliance, and we determined that the curb ramps do not, the current curb ramps do not meet the current standard. So we're proposing to replace those with current standards, put brand new crosswalks in, and you can see in the red, these would be the brand new traffic signals at each corner. Currently you have what's is a horizontal traffic signal. We will put in the county standard with the cantilever arm and the standard vertical traffic signal lights. And again, we'll provide the architectural type of lighting at the intersections. This is just a rendering of what we're planning on doing in front of one of the business entrances, is that we would go back to basically the front door, replace the sidewalk where necessary, and put brand new curb ramps in. So that's Watchung Ave. And again, we would provide all new traffic signals, signs where needed, and the current heads, which are, the traffic signal lights, which are 8 inches, we'd be upgrading those to 12 inches LED, so they would be more visible. All these signs will be updated. At this particular intersection, on this corner here, there's a security camera, traffic security camera that was installed on top of the signal pole. We'll relocate that because the new signal poles won't have that capability to have that installed. So going to the next intersection, this is Roosevelt Avenue. Again, an aerial view of it. More pictures of existing condition that we would be replacing. And just to point out, see, this is the traffic signal I was telling you currently have right there. So we replace where it's a horizontal light to a vertical light. Again, this is similar to Watchung, except for the bus stops. We basically be tearing up the whole center of the intersection, resurfacing, putting brand new crosswalks, new curb ramps at every corner, brand new traffic signals at every corner. And again, we will not be eliminating any parking stalls at this intersection. So none removed, none added. Now Sanford Ave. This is the more interesting one. As you can see, we have a T intersection with East Front Street, the main road, in front of the senior center. And at this corner, there's a bank. So this is just a photo of it looking downstream. And again, point of reference, bank's there, senior center's over here. Currently, there was installed this rapid beacon device where this strobes, and I believe it's always active, this strobes and allows pedestrians to cross here. But as you can see, vehicles park along here, and it's difficult to see pedestrians that want to cross this road here. We were out there on a field visit once, and we sat there for a while waiting to cross, and nobody stopped. We actually started entering the intersection, and people still wouldn't stop for us. So what we're proposing to do is, again, resurface the road, brand new crosswalks, new curb ramps at each of the legs, and what we're going to do is remove this and put in what's referred to a pedestrian hybrid beacon system. This currently is used at several other locations in the county. One of them is the, I believe it's the Tabor Mall. Is that correct? Tabor?
Lord and Tails.
Lord and Tails, sorry. And this will be a pedestrian activated system. So similar to a pedestrian crosswalk where you go up there and you push a button. You push this button, this will activate the light system. It is not a per se traffic signal where it is constantly functioning going from red to yellow to green. This only has red and yellow. So what happens is a person goes up there, pushes the button, and I believe the yellow starts flashing, then it goes to yellow steady, and then red, then it changes to red. Vehicles have to stop on a red signal, allows pedestrians to cross. Once it gets to a certain time limit, the red starts to blink, telling pedestrians you need to get across this a little bit quicker, and it tells the vehicles you're about to get the green light. There is no green light though. And then it goes, once it's done flashing red, it goes to black. And then the vehicles can go across. So that would be installed. We would install one in front of the intersection on either sides, and that would control this, the northbound side, and it could control the southbound side. Richmond Street Norwood is similar to Watchung, and we're going to replace the whole intersection, again, resurface it, mill and resurface it, new crosswalks, new curb ramps. This one is a little bit more unique because the legs on these corners have a flatter curve to them. We've been informed by local residents that there used to be trolley tracks that went around this intersection, and believe that that may be the reason why there's such a flat curve on these curbs on this location. So what we're proposing, we're actually presenting two different concepts for this intersection. And again, I'm sorry it's so small. But we would put in a tighter curb radius here that matches all four, the other two corners. And this will shorten up the pedestrian crossing, going across this way, and also that way. It'll provide brand new traffic signals at each corner. We will not need to take right-of-way at this corner, but we're proposing to take right-of-way at this corner. And that's because of the traffic signal and the sidewalk that we need to make that turn. Again, that's an ADA federal requirement that we have to have a sidewalks in a certain width, and that's the reason why we're doing it there. As you can see that there's this is the housing authority owns this property here. There's already a fence jog in this property, so we wouldn't be touching that. There's a couple of trees in there, we wouldn't be touching that. We're just taking a small sliver up in the front corner there. And this is the second option, which you can see it's similar, but when we did look at the curb ramps, and again, all the curb ramps we looked at did not meet the current standards, except for this one. This one curb ramp actually was okay. Our concern with this one, it is referred to as an apex curb ramp. That means it's sitting at the point of this radius. That's not the ideal situation for curb ramps. You actually want two different curb ramps. So even though we're showing this, this is not the ideal situation. It is acceptable, but it's not the ideal situation. Again, we would still need to take a right-of-way at this corner. So the only benefit of doing this concept is that we wouldn't necessarily need to rip up that curb ramp. And you can see also, because we weren't adjusting this curb ramp, we left a flatter radius, therefore there is no justification to tighten this radius on this side either. So that's basically everything in a nutshell. During construction, most of the construction will be done fairly quickly. We would still allow pedestrian access at these different intersections. We would develop it so that the pedestrians, if they had to go through this, we would reroute them around the intersection. At this time, we are anticipating completing the design in September 2019, and we're anticipating construction beginning in the summer of 2020. And that ends my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Mr. Good?
None, Councilman.
Councilman Hockaday?
So, are there some advantages with putting the bus station after the light than before the light? Is that was the
Yes.
primary concern? Okay.
Yes, currently the bus stop is sitting here. So as you can see, we're actually making this a right turn lane. If the bus stops here, they basically occupy that right turn lane. By moving that bus stop to the other location, this now becomes essentially free flowing. And so the bus will go across the intersection and allow anybody to make these movements to get across easier.
Ms. Tolliver.
I have a question. You didn't include, but I have a question about it, and who's responsible. I know it's a county road, East Front and Turl Road. There's no markings on the Plainfield side for like a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn and go straight. A lot of times I've observed people, they don't know if you're going straight or you're going left. And then sometimes two cars are going straight because they assume you're going left. That's a dangerous intersection there that I feel someone needs to take a look at. There's markings on Scotch Plain side, left, go straight, but there's none on the Plainfield side. And I've seen a whole lot of almost accidents because I travel that way.
So is that the area where the former Dunkin' Donuts was?
Yes.
So you're trying to navigate left or right at that intersection, and you feel that there's some concern there regarding striping?
Well, when
pavement markings?
the road construction was done on Terrell Road, they put the markings there, left, right, straight. And then about a month or so after that, someone came through and covered the markings up with black. So people that want to turn left to go onto Terrell Road toward 22 don't know what the people on the right are doing. Or if you're in the left-hand lane, they think you're going to the left and you go straight, they come around you on the right and someone's going to get hurt. I brought it up, but since you are integrating on Front Street, I figured I might as well mention Terrell Road needs to be looked at, Terrell in front.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to speak to Tom Minio, the county engineer, as well as Angelo Paparella, who does he's the bureau chief of the line striping department.
Yeah.
We will take a double look at the plans because that intersection was upgraded in 2009 and 10, and I know the road had been resurfaced as well post 2010, so we would be more than happy to take a look at the striping to ensure that the plans meet the requirements. Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley.
So, question about like the pedestrian walkway, especially I think it was East Front by the senior center. It is difficult, like for people to yield to pedestrians. I've been there too. But in terms of what you're proposing, do you believe that there's going to be a noticeable difference in terms of cars yielding to pedestrians? I guess it's in this one we were talking about.
Yes, this is Sanford. And again, because it is a traffic signal, even though it's a state law that people are supposed to stop for individuals, this is an actual traffic signal that can be enforced by local enforcement. And because, again, if you can see, let's see if I go back, you can see that even though this is a flashing beacon, it's kind of hard to see. You got trees and it's going to be buried in there. You got vehicles, so it's not at a nice height for vehicles. Because again, if you're driving down this road and you're paying attention more in front of it, by this flashing constantly, it becomes just random noise in the background. People don't pay attention to it. So what we're proposing, if you can envision, a traffic signal pole that will be coming up along here, coming across, and the lights will be hanging here. So it will be basically in your line of sight driving down the road. And all of a sudden it's going to be black, and then you're going to start seeing these colors flashing. And again, once it turns red, like my pointer there, you are supposed to stop. So we think, and also, you can also see that we have the vehicles parked here. We are actually, and I'm sorry I didn't emphasize that, on this particular one, we are actually removing one parking stall. This is, I think, the only intersection we're actually doing that. So we are actually proposing to eliminate parking in this general area, pushing back. As you can see, there's a stop bar here and a stop bar there. So nobody really should be parking in between the stop bars. So we would be pushing the parking further away. So again, anybody who's driving down here, they hopefully will have a better line of sight to anybody that's trying to leave this curb ramp here to cross.
And those signs are activated by pedestrians, correct?
Correct. That would be a pedestrian going up there, physically pushing a button to activate the signal.
No further questions.
Mr. Storch.
I have a question for the future, I think. This is, I'm talking about East 7th Street, the intersections of Belvedere and Leland. So in Belvedere, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic going to the Netherwood Station. The city has tried to do some things to traffic calm that section, but it's not very effective. So I would hope that we could look at that. And then one block east, which is Leland, Hope's just opened a school where there were previously, there was no activity at all. Now I think there's like 300 students being driven to school by their parents. So those intersections don't really have, they don't have any improvements except for just a basic stop sign. Maybe there's a little bit of striping, but nothing like what you're talking about. And I think there's a lot of potential for accidents, pedestrian and vehicle accidents.
Thank you very much for your question. East 7th Street is phase 3 of our 3-phased project. And as a matter of fact, when I sent the application to Christine Mittman, the photograph I took for the successful application was the corner of Leland and the East 7th Street. It was a very old 1970 style intersection, slightly slanted. So we are well aware of that area, and you'll see that in future infrastructure improvements.
So if you go back there now, I think the school just opened up about a month ago.
The school, that was the former armory?
Yes.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that intersection.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
No question.
No questions. We thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Next, we will have representatives from PSE&G will give a brief presentation regarding the soil remediation project at the municipal police parking lot.
Please.
So good evening, everyone. I appreciate the invite to come in and provide a status update for our former Plainfield Gas Works site remediation project. I'm Lou Hahn. I am the PSE&G project manager, responsible for managing the project that we're just about to undertake here in Plainfield. Next slide, please. Okay. The current slide shows the location of the former Plainfield Gas Works site. It's actually located right behind the police department building here. I advanced out, so. Yeah, I wanted to just point out a couple of the features here if I can. The police department parking lot that you're familiar with, East 4th Street extension, and then a commuter parking lot, Court Place. Give you an overview of the location of the work area. The actual remediation work will primarily be done in this area. And then we're going to do some restoration work in the balance of the police department and also East 4th Street. Next slide, please. So back in the mid-1800s, roughly 1860s until early 1920s, predecessors to PSE&G manufactured gas at a facility located on that parcel. And then with the advent of natural gas in the 50s, the MGP plant actually became defunct and was demolished over time. PSE&G sold the property off to the city for use as it is now today for municipal purposes. In August of 2017, PSE&G came before council and we had a remediation agreement presented and approved to do the work. So now we're here preparing to mobilize and get started with that remediation project. So the next slide actually provides a project overview. So generally what we'll be doing is removing about the top 10 feet of soil by excavation, removing any remnants of the old plant's foundations, infrastructure as part of that, and then stabilizing the soil beneath that to a depth of about 40 feet, which is about bedrock. Then we'll be restoring all the remediated areas, following the streetscape specifications that the city has and everything for East 4th Street. We're going to take that restoration from Roosevelt all the way up to Watchung Avenue. The project schedule right now, the timeline, is we'd be beginning the real remediation about early 2019, so we're thinking January, boots on the ground, maybe some small amount of surveying leading up to that in December, but really in January we'd be getting started. Estimated project duration of about a year to 16 months is what we're anticipating. Anticipated work hours Monday through Friday, 7 to 4. Some of the next slides will show kind of the phases of remediation. We're going to try and break the remediation up into several phases, try and minimize the impact as best we can to both the police and the court employees as well as the community. So the first phase will involve the remediation of the 4th Street extension as well as the municipal parking lot, and we'll be restoring both of those areas back to a usable functionality as we complete the remediation, with the anticipation that East 4th Street will be back open to traffic, hopefully towards mid to late summer of this coming year, 2019. Following completion of those areas, we'll move into restoration in what's shown here as phase 3, but then start work in the police department parking lot while keeping access to the back of the police department, as we discussed with public safety, to make sure that that area is accessible. And then we'll move into the final phase, which will be a wrap-up of the restoration work in that phase 2, and then a smaller area just behind the police department. So during that phase, we'll be keeping access available to the back of the police department so that the police have access at all times to the full perimeter of the building. Let's see. I wanted to include here a slide that just shows how we'll work to keep both the workers during the remediation project safe as well as the public, working to minimize dust and odors, realizing that we're right here in downtown. We'll be utilizing things like a odor control foam as necessary if we get into any type of odors, and misting as needed with water, and or the same foam to control any dust that may be generated as we're doing the work. And just for a quick update on what we've done so far in terms of our outreach, we've established a website where information can be found, and we'll be periodically updating that website with information on the project. We've also established a community information line where you can telephone us and leave messages if folks have questions, and an email address where questions can also be submitted to the company for additional information, or if any of the stakeholders or community have concerns. Thus far, we have completed an outreach session for interested city employees, particularly for the court and the police department. And we also hosted in October a community information session that was held at the Arts Lofts. We mailed out a public notification and fact sheet, both in English and Spanish, to property owners and residents in the vicinity of the work. We've met with the Plainfield health officer. We've met with the Union County health officer and provided them notice of the upcoming work. And our intent is to also send out a weekly email update at the end of each week on what we've completed for that current week and what we anticipate completing in the following week, so that we'll be keeping everybody informed as we move through the process. So I think with that,
I thought there was supposed to be some type of air quality testing that you were going to inform the residents about.
That's correct. So as part of our performance of this type of work, we have a perimeter air monitoring plan that's been established with routine monitoring that'll be done real time during the work. We will also be doing weekly confirmatory testing, which is where we take actual samples of the air, send it off for laboratory analysis, and the results from that confirmatory sampling will be posted routinely on the web page as the results become available. And then as well, the county health officer also requested that we include that in a distribution of the data. So that's the plan for the air monitoring. And you'll see stations similar to that station. We'll have multiple stations set up that'll include the instrumentation for that monitoring.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Good?
Are you expecting any problems with contamination when you're digging and moving all of this stuff around as far as the ground?
So during this type of work, because it is contaminated soil, it's done by contractors who specialize in remediation work. It's done in a very controlled fashion where we fence off the area and we limit who can enter the site, as well as control like the potential for odors and dust during the digging with the foams and with water mist. Then as we load trucks to transport soil from the site, they will undergo wheel wash. So we'll wash down the wheels of the trucks to make sure we don't track anything out of the area. But the purpose of the work is to clean up that contaminated soil.
How effective are your precautions as far as the air and so forth? I mean,
Very protective, very effective. 3 years ago, we completed a similar project in downtown Hoboken. We excavated an entire city block there to bedrock, essentially to bedrock, removing all that soil, replacing it with clean fill, and now they've developed that site with a new building, residential building.
that was going to be one of my questions had the council president not have brought it up about the air quality. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hopperhead?
Yeah, so I'm wondering what prompted this, kind of why now type of thing? Why wasn't it done sooner, considering that, and then once this is done, what benefits will the city have now that this property is remediated?
Okay. So the timeline on these sites, a lot of these sites were not identified as, they're old, they were backfilled, they were identified typically in about the 1980s. And then at that time, they were required to undergo through the NJDEP an investigation, a site investigation to identify if there was contamination present, a remedial investigation to find out how much and how extensive the contamination is, and then a remedial design aspect, which is where you develop a work plan to determine how you're going to actually remediate the site. And these sites typically have both soil contamination and groundwater contamination, so you're investigating both phases or both of those media, is what we call them, to determine what the impacts are. So the timeline on establishing what you're going to do with these sites tends to take time. As well, there are numerous of these sites, so we work within our budgets to pace these out over a timeline. So it does take time to get them to the point where we can clean them up. So then in terms of the benefits, we will have that superficial 10 feet of soil removed and then replaced with clean fill. And then we'll be, PSE&G will have met our remedial obligations at the site. So, future use at that point will be, we're intending it'll go back to police municipal parking going forward.
So, like in your Hoboken example, they built a building there, which probably wasn't building before. Ours is restoring to its original use. So I'm just wondering, what would have happened had we not undertaken this plan?
If we had not undertaken the project?
This project, yeah.
So the state of New Jersey requires the project be undertaken to remediate the soil and then ultimately the groundwater. So we are obligated from a regulatory standpoint with the state to do that work. And we are under...
In terms of the health and safety of our residents is what I'm thinking about.
Okay. So in its current condition, that material is all capped underneath asphalt. So as it resides under the ground, it's in a safe state. It's maintained in that fashion such that there's no direct contact to the residents of that soil that's contaminated. So the only time that there would be a potential for that contact would be if it were to be excavated and removed, exposed. So by eliminating, especially that top 10 feet of soil, future disturbance of that area, you'd have clean fill there. It'd be less of a concern long term.
Thanks.
Ms. Talbot?
So you said it's only contaminated, it's down in the ground, so it's not a contamination to the residents. What about rainwater, when it runs down into that area and it runs off into other areas? Is that a concern for contamination?
So right now, the majority of that area is paved. And the stormwater that runs onto that paved parking lot in the street is collected through the storm drains and then transported off-site. So you're not having direct contact of that stormwater generally with any contamination. In areas where you have vegetation, you may have percolation through that soil. And we do know that there is contamination in the groundwater there at the site as well. What we anticipate is by doing the removal of the top 10 feet and the stabilization of the deeper material, the groundwater over time will clean up naturally.
And how long do you expect that to be for it to clean up?
That can take a decade, potentially, or more.
So you said in the 80s is when they discovered this area was contaminated?
This area, I know PSC&G had entered into an access agreement with the city of Plainfield in 2001, so I believe this one was a little later timeline. So our original investigations began in the early 2000s here in Plainfield.
So we're in 2018, so it took so long for them to remediate the problem?
So again, it's a matter of the phases of investigation that are undertaken, and it's logistics with the numerous sites that we do have, as well as the complexity of certain sites.
So how many more of these sites are in our city? Do you know?
My understanding is this is the only manufactured gas plant here in the city of Plainfield.
One other question. So when the project starts, that whole area, there's going to be still, the municipal court is going to still be open and people are going to be coming in and
Correct.
out through the day. If there's someone there with some type of respiratory problem or something, is there any way they're going to be warned, or is it going to be safe for them to come in that area and breathe the air?
So we'll have fencing up with the privacy screening around that, so that should also help to mitigate any concern for the public walking in the area. The sites are very controlled. We'll have a health and safety officer full-time out there, as well as a perimeter monitoring technician, and on-site engineering oversight. So the site should be adequately cordoned off from the general public to prevent any potential for contact.
And will the
with
city get
any
a daily
contamination.
update on the monitoring of the perspective of the air, how clear it is, how clean it is?
I'm sure that we can certainly provide that. I mean, we're going to be doing weekly through the web, through our weekly email update, and posting it on the web as well. So,
Mr. Almighty.
Yeah, what's the estimated, I guess, timeline from start to finish?
so roughly from January to about December of next year, so about 12 months.
Okay.
I'm showing 12 to 16 months. We do have some additional prep work that we're going through right now with the city, so yeah, we're anticipating that 12 to 16.
Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Stewart.
So these are city properties, and the city is not paying anything towards the remediation. It's all being covered by PSC&G.
That's correct.
So I think it opens up development potential for the city in the future, because it's right next to the downtown train station. And without remediation, that would be a hindrance to,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a comment I just want to throw out. I'm
Yeah.
sure that our economic development people have recognized that, but I just wanted to mention it. I think this is a really good thing for the city.
I agree. Thank you.
Mr. Mills Ransom.
Any questions?
Well, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Oh, you want it done? You can move it there.
Better in front of the table, so the mic in front of the table. Who wants to take it? I'll just move the mic in front of the table. Yeah.
The reorganization meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, January 7, 2019 at 7 p.m. Are there any questions from the council? Ms. Tyler?
No.
Mr. Hockaday?
None.
Mr. Good?
No, Council President.
Mrs. Stewart? Mr. Amado?
No question.
Mr. Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Okay. Public comments will be limited to resolutions and ordinance being considered this evening. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes. The floor is now open.
I move that the public comment period be closed.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? MC 27 through MC 2018-32 and bond ordinance 1266 are scheduled for public hearing and second reading on December 11, 2018 as advertised. Are there any questions from the council on these ordinances? Ms. Tolliver?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
None.
Mr. Good?
None, Council President.
Mr. Storch?
Yes, for MC 27. That's the one with the salary ranges, I believe. Just a question to the administration. Why the upper part of the salary range for the secretaries is 80,000, where it looks like other positions, some of the other positions, which are management positions, are actually a little bit lower?
Certainly. Well, obviously, a range just allows for the ability of the administration to, or I guess for that secretarial position over time, based on longevity, based on contracts to be paid within their range. So it's not uncommon for a secretarial position over the length of a career to reach the number of $80,000.
But some of the management positions look like they're actually have a range with a lower ceiling, which I don't understand. And I believe that once we passed a salary ordinance, the council has no say, and it's strictly an administrative decision as to what the salaries are going to be.
Well, that would be entirely accurate. The positions are still subject to the budget, which is adopted by council. And of course, in every budget book that you get, all of the salaries and positions are listed. So council does have a clear understanding of what everyone is being paid within that department.
But the line, like our power in adjusting salary lines does not extend to specific salaries of positions, if I understand our budget process.
Well, yes, it is the role of the administration to negotiate salaries with individual employees. That is correct. However, it always is subject to budgetary limitations.
Okay, so yeah, I generally support this ordinance, but that particular aspect of it makes no sense to me, and I would not want to support it. I would ask the administration to rethink that one.
Mr. Amado?
No questions.
Mr. Mills Ransom? Okay. Do we have consensus to add this to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Are there any questions from the council for Resolution A? Ms. Tolliver?
Of course not.
Mr. Hockaday? Mr. Almighty?
No.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Okay, do I have consensus?
Yes.
Move this agenda.
Yes.
Are there any questions from the council for Resolution B?
No.
Ms. Tyler?
None.
Holiday?
None.
Good.
No, Councilor.
Storch? Holiday?
No.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
No.
Do I have consensus to move this to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Would the corporate council office please present their items?
Thank you, Council President. The Corporation Counsel's Office offers items C, D, E, and F, previously discussed in executive session last month. Thank you. If there are any questions, I assume they would have been discussed in executive session.
Are there any questions, Ms. Howard?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
Nothing further.
Mr. Good?
No, Councilor. Questions?
Mr. Storch?
No questions.
Mr. Amati?
No questions.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Do we have consensus to add this to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Would the Department of Administration and Finance please present their items?
Department of Finance offers items G, H, I, J, K, L, and M. Subject to any questions, Council.
Are there any questions, Ms. Howard?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
Not at this time.
Mr. Wood?
No, Councilor. No questions.
Mr. Storch?
Could we just get, for J, it's J, I'm sorry, not J. No, actually, it's K. That's the county board, tax board judgment reducing taxes by $24,000.
Yes, what would you
What's
like?
that property?
No, there are 21 properties.
Oh, okay, so that's more, okay. That explains it, thank you.
Mr. Amati?
I did have one. I wasn't sure if there was a discrepancy in the number. It looked like you had said $24,000, but then when I had looked closely, it said it was 22. We can look at backup information, so I wasn't sure if there was just
Which resolution?
an error. For K, sorry. K. Yeah, based on the information that was provided, you have a grand total of $23,723.87, but then the resolution is for $24,870. So I was just curious where like the additional funds came from.
Look at so it's the resolution and the cover memo, both 40, 70, and 40 cents. So I'll have to look at the attachment.
Okay.
Council President, yeah, I have it in front of me, we will definitely recheck the number. The attached documents supporting this resolution does indicate 2007-2384, and the resolution says 24,000, so we will double check these numbers.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Okay, do I have consensus to put this on the agenda?
Yes.
Objection, abstentions? Okay. Would the Department of Public Works please present their items?
Mr. Council President, Mr. Council, Department of Public Works has 6 resolutions on the agenda, from letters N to S. Any questions?
Ms. Tyler?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
None.
Mr. Good?
No, Councilor. No questions.
Mr. Storch?
No questions.
Mr. Almighty?
No.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
Question.
Do I have consensus to place this on the agenda?
Yes.
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 Okay. Would the Department of Economic Development please present their items?
Good evening, Council President and Council. Economic Development has resolutions T through B, TUB. Any questions?
Are there any questions, Ms. Tyler?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
No.
Mr. Wood?
No, Councilor. No questions.
Mr. Storch?
We got the administration to just briefly explain what's happening with UNV.
UNV we are amending, we're asking that the plans be amended to accommodate NJDEP regulations regarding flood zone protection. So elevation of properties and the like.
So I know that there's already a redevelopment, proposed redevelopment on North Avenue that's where we've been struggling for, I would say, probably a couple of years with DEP trying to get approval. I'm not sure that we've had much success, but do we anticipate that this is going to be a major problem? And if not, why?
Okay, so the project on North Avenue, which is 1000 North Avenue, we've been working with the DEP and the developer to resolve any concerns that DEP has. That application was submitted as a hardship application, and it is likely to be approved within the next 30 days. So we have positive indication that that application will be approved. There are other applications such as 829 South Avenue that doesn't require a hardship application that DEP is going to approve, and there will be more applications before DEP.
Thank you.
Mr. Amati?
No questions.
Ms. Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Do I have consensus to put this on the agenda?
Yes.
All in favor? Will the Department of Health and Social Service please present their items?
Good evening, Council President and Council. The Department of Health and Social Services presents letters W and X for consideration.
Are there any questions? Ms. Tolliver?
None.
Mr. Hockaday?
None.
Mr. Good?
I have one that was answered. So far.
Mr. Stewart?
No questions.
Mr. Almighty?
No questions.
Mills Ransom?
No questions.
Do we have a consensus to put these items on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Now we come to citizens are welcome to address the council on any governmental item of concern to them, whether or not it is scheduled on the agenda above. During the portion of the agenda, a total of 60 minutes has been allocated for all public comments to be presented. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name and address to the clerk for the records. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, will be limited to 5 minutes. Large groups are urged to select someone to represent them. The floor is now open.
Thank you. John E. Pritchard, formerly of 723 Arlington Avenue, Plainfield, now 42-44 West Hawk Street, Cranford, New Jersey. A couple of things I'd like to address the members of the council. This month, we have our sons and daughters serving our country, our soldiers, sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and airmen. We're doing their utmost to defend liberty everywhere and protect our freedoms. We must back them up in every way. We think of them, especially in our with the holiday season coming on. We failed to back our men during the war in Vietnam. 16 men lost their lives during the war. Excuse me. Those who returned were called baby killers, murderers, Nazis. I'd like to see that word Nazi retired once and for all. The poor brave soldier and their despised, nor count him as a stranger. Remember, he's his country's stay in day and out of danger. Excuse me. Secondly, we need a hospital in Plainfield. We need to reactivate the hospital, especially in Muhlenberg. We cannot afford to lose that because this is a national security issue. What about an attack occurs? We'll need that hospital. We'll need many more very, very badly. The sooner we reactivate Muhlenberg, the better off we all will be. Don't make this so clear.
Seeing no more for public comments, may I have a motion to close public comments? So. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objection? May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.